Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Conroy-Roth, and you are watching Lightning Leadership. Today, my featured guest is Doug Blitzer. I've known Doug now for a couple of years, love his energy, love his leadership style, and I'm excited to have you on. So thank you, Doug, for joining me.
Thanks, Teresa. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your Zap moment. A friend of mine from church a couple of months ago said, Teresa, love Lightning Leadership. Love the concept, love the speakers, but you don't really get into the meat. What's the meat? And the meat is Zap from a lightning perspective. When did you first realize that you were a leader?
Yeah, it's interesting. I look at the Zap moment as the moment where I realized I wasn't a leader.
You wasn't.
That
You
I
weren't.
that I could be a better leader.
Oh.
And it was by 35,000 feet. So the story is I was part of a reduction in force for a company, and it was tough. It was during the 2006 recession.
Yeah.
And I was literally in a leadership program with this company prior to being part of this reduction in force. And so it was, obviously when you go through that, it's very shocking.
Yeah.
But I knew right then and there, based on that experience, that, how do I transform myself? And how do I make myself better? How do I become a better leader? That's actually not the Zap moment. In order to find work, I found work as a consultant, and this is the humbling part. I helped because I had expertise in CRM. I flew out to St. Bernard's Parish in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, wow.
There was a company that was in charge. 80% of the homes had to be demolished because of that. There was 20 feet of water, and it's a very humbling moment walking into or flying into New Orleans and driving from the airport into St. Bernard's Parish, where pretty much everything was destroyed. And this was just interim work for me to try to keep myself afloat after the reduction in force. And
yeah,
I was there and saw the destruction. And I'm from Florida, so I understand hurricanes, but this was something much different. And prior to the reduction in force, I was in a leadership program, and part of that leadership program was to read the book Good to Great. So I decided, that I was going to transform myself, and the way I was going to do it was I was on the airplane between Florida and Louisiana, and I decided that I'm going to read this book. And the book kind of talks through many different concepts, but one of the concepts is, and you have the book there. Here you go. That beautiful red cover, that famous red Good to Great cover. And, what does it mean to be a level 5 leader?
Yeah.
And you get through, I think I flew back and forth there 3 times, and it took me that, long to read it in between doing work. And one of the things it talked about was the difference between looking inward and looking outward. And level 5 leaders look outward. And at 35,000 feet, I literally was at the window seat, and I looked out the window and I said, I'm not a level 5 leader. And if you look at the pyramid that he puts up there in the book, it talks about a level 3 leader. I self-assessed myself at that very moment and determined that, I need to change. I was very inward looking. And especially when you come off of a reduction in force, you self-reflect, which is really important. And one of the things the reason why this particular book is the Bible for me is that, one, I kind of wish I knew a lot of these concepts when I started my career.
Mm-hmm.
And so defining your passion, defining what you want to be the best in the world at. I literally did that on those plane rides. And because of that, I changed the way I worked. I changed myself as a leader.
That's awesome.
And it was very humbling, and it put me down a path to look at situations differently, look at it very outwardly, and drive me towards volunteerism.
Service
Yeah, and I became the director after about 4 years. Became the director of a nonprofit, Leadership Broward Foundation, and down in South Florida. And it was because of all the work that I did after I had that Zap moment,
Yeah.
um, that brought me to the point where I could look in the mirror and say, "Am I a level 5 leader now?"
Yeah.
And it was a very humbling experience, and that book really changed my career trajectory and my life in a lot of ways.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think service for me is I don't know if I can do what I do um, and be the person that I am without that volunteer work and that service. And we've tried to pass it down to our kids, but I have been in the Ninth Ward down in New Orleans on multiple service projects. It was devastating. Katrina, unless you've seen it, was
Yes.
absolutely devastating to that community. I think at one point there was, if they used the example of 3 houses, right? You've got a house that's standing. You have a house that's in complete and total disrepair that has an X on the door, right? And then the third one is a plot of land where there used to be a house, and you know that there's not a house, right? So as you look at it, it was like 33% of the houses there are still standing. The rest are vacant lots or houses that need to be, demolished. And just the quality of life and the jobs and the food deserts, right? It changes you. And in some cases it grounds you because you realize what you do have and what you should be thankful for and what you're driving towards, right? Not to mention being from an area like that, but it's shocking
Yeah.
in a good way. I think every single time, you provide services or you get your hands dirty in something like that.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it definitely drove me towards, the Leadership Broward Foundation is as a part of a whole group of nonprofits around the country. The leadership nonprofits. There's Leadership Columbus. There's Leadership in Indianapolis. There's leadership in every single major city. It's the same format. Uh, 55 people in the class, and it's an 8-month program, and you learn to give back. Our nonprofit we did a project for was the Broward Victims' Rights Coalition
Oh, very
for victims of violent crime, and in our first year we designed a garden of reflection for victims of violent crime, and in the second year, the program was over, but we as a team stayed and got it built. And so doing that type of work to me does 2 things. One, it does hone you in as a leader because you don't have to lead from the front. You can lead from behind. And we had our team of 6. We had an emergency room doctor. We had people on, a director of marketing, and in that particular instance, I didn't take a leadership position. I didn't present in front of the Board of County Commissioners. It was the emergency room doctor that did.
Yeah.
But I led from behind to help drive that. And what was I good at the time? And I think that's really important for people to understand that you don't always have to be the leader from the standpoint of somebody who's, I'm the CEO. You don't
Yeah.
have to do that to be a leader.
Yeah. Well, I think about coaches, right? A coach is a coach. Yes, they're a leader, but they're not playing, right? They're giving guidance because they've been there, they've done that, they know how to make you be the best, right? But they're not on the court leading the way a captain would, right? On, say, a basketball team, you're leading from the sidelines, and that's crucial sometimes.
Exactly. So it actually drove me to 2 additional books. One book was Dale Carnegie, and I read the original, the one that was written
Did
in
you? I have the original behind me.
Yeah, the one that was written in the 1920s, and
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. And so again, it's about not having to think, about yourself. It's about thinking of others.
Yeah.
And a book called It's Your Ship,
It's
which
your
was
ship.
It's Your Ship. Yes, it was written by a commander in the U.S. Navy who turned a cruise missile ship around from being the worst ship in the Navy to the best ship in the Navy. And what are the the things that he did to do that?
Yeah.
And I actually, as part of the Leadership Broward work, I actually invited him to be a keynote speaker, and I met him.
Very cool.
And it, very, very inspiring, to meet him. So, all of these things, to me, it's from a leadership perspective, it's all about collecting all of this information and then applying it. I mean, and that's what I've done in my career since that time, since that Zap moment.
Yeah.
And it's now built up to where I feel very successful in the work that we're doing. And you and I work very closely together. So I think it's important to the concepts that Jim Collins talks about. One is when things look great, look to the team. When things are not so great, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Level five leadership is about looking to others, not yourself, and defining your passion and what you want to be the best in the world at. Those three concepts from that book, and which has driven my work with students and people that come out of college. I ask everybody I interview, actually, whether they're students or not or experienced, what are you passionate about? What do you want to be the best in the world at?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great reflection for, I think, so many of our listeners and our employees and people we work side by side with, even our families, right? What do you want to be the best in the world at? In some cases, it's what's your superpower, but superpowers is almost just taken for granted, right? Because it's a superpower, you have it. This is what's that next step? What's that next level? And how do you want to get there?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Doug Blitzer. This has been an absolute treat.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. For those that want to reach out to Doug and learn more or follow Doug's book recommendations, right? Reach out to Doug on LinkedIn. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, please feel to like, comment, repost. If you're watching it on Spotify or on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, like, or comment. Thank you so much. Until next time, peace. Thanks, Doug Blitzer.
Thanks, Teresa.
Have a great day, everyone. You did it. Why did it pop off? Did it pop off?